But I was also intrigued by, when I started to find out a little bit about Sidcot, I was intrigued by the school motto. It's unusual for schools to proclaim as its headline thing that their kind of core value, their core objective is to send out young people who live adventurously. And that kind of, rang bells with my approach. And I'm interested to learn more. I've been picking up a little bit, but I'm interested to know how this is it's like illustrating how building learning power people think. I'm interested to know how that commitment to sending out young people who live adventurously changes the way you teach simultaneous equations in year 9. How does it follow through? How does it change the way you do French irregular verbs or ionic and covalent bonding or the causes of the First World War? How would you be teaching differently as a result of that commitment from a school whose motto was some kind of bland notion of preparing young people to fulfill their potential or some vacuous nonsense like that? Okay? So a lot of the work that I do is about helping schools to get really clear what those core values are, and then to think about whether they have done everything that they can to stitch together the micro details that add up to the student's experience in the school, so that everything is angled towards the achievement of those core aims. Because in a lot of schools, it isn't. A lot of schools, there are fine words on the front pages of the home page of the website, or in the glossy brochure. But when you actually walk into a classroom, you're hard pressed to see how those commitments are manifesting. Some schools haven't even thought. It's very fashionable at the moment to be interested in the development of things like resilience or grit. Is the fashionable notion. The inclination to stick with difficult things for longer than your natural inclination might be, to stay intelligently engaged with things that are challenging, confusing, or demanding. And a lot of people sign up for that. I know some of you have been exploring the work of Carol Dweck, so you'll know a little bit about that. And it's fine, it's great. It's like most of us would say that's a useful value for young people to have as they go out from their education, from this attempt to prepare them as best we can to go out into the big wide world. Yes, we would say, that inclination, they're going to need it when they get to university or when they get into employment or when they have their first child, that willingness not to give up quickly because you're feeling stupid, but to keep trying, to keep thinking of other possibilities, to, as I say, stay intelligently engaged, to do what an Oxford friend of mine calls the inclination to know how to flounder intelligently when confronted with things that are perplexing or challenging. And it's easy to assent to. But then I will say to them, so obviously you've worked out a kind of what the sort of developmental pathway looks like for developing grit, haven't you? And obviously you're collecting whatever data you consider to be appropriate, which enables you to say with some degree of confidence that your year 10s are indeed grittier than they were in year 9. They are persisting longer intelligently with difficult things than they did before. Because if you haven't done that, if you haven't thought that through, you're not serious yet, are you? You haven't really kind of joined the game if you're not willing to say, this is a tricky question, but how do we know it's working? How do we know that year on year, your girls and boys, your young men, your women are living more adventurously? How do you operationalize that? Otherwise, it's hot air, isn't it? No. So, so the work that I do is kind of the sort of grunt work of trying to say, so how do we stitch those things together a bit more tightly? And that's what I want to talk about this morning.